What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Thursday, November 11th, and we have a Thursday night football game to preview. What we thought was going to be a battle, I'm sure what the NFL thought when they scheduled it was going to be a battle of two playoff contenders in the AFC, is now devolved into a desperate, sad Miami Dolphins team hosting a white-hot Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. To break it all down, joining me from a gambling perspective and a betting perspective, prop perspective, and, of course, a DFS perspective, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, Will? And honestly, not even the disappointment of the Dolphins not being that playoff contender. We don't even know who's going to be the quarterback right now. I mean, it looks like it's not going to be Tua Tagovailoa. It could be Jacoby Brissett. So we're not even getting the young quarterback because obviously Tua Tagovailoa dealing with that fracture in his left throwing hand. So, that's another one where it's like, man, this could have been what could have been here, Will?
What could have been? And I feel like you and I have drawn the short stick. Or not the short stick. I mean, anybody talking about these primetime games has, but like every single week, it feels like there's been somebody key in the game who has been extremely questionable. Or, it's like you can't, like, there's not, I mean, you can't bet on, although I guess they have receiving props up at Caesars for the Dolphins, because it's not like, I mean, the Tua Jacoby drop off, is, I mean, it's there, but it's not like incredibly significant. Not that Jacoby Brissett has played particularly well.
I was talking about that with one of our editors on Sunday when the news was coming in where Tua wasn't going to be starting in the game and all of that. It was going to be Jacoby Brissett. I think the line maybe moved a point or two.
Towards the Dolphins.
Yeah, it did not make a difference at all. And then, you go the previous week and Devontae Adams is shaking up the whole line. So, the market doesn't particularly like or think a lot of Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa, that's right. We will, of course, talk about this game from a betting perspective, a props perspective, and then on YouTube, we will talk about it from a DFS perspective. That is a YouTube exclusive. You can, of course, watch us on YouTube every single Monday, Thursday, and Sunday when there's a primetime game. Subscribe at youtube.com/pick6. Turn on alerts. Like the video if you're watching right now. Comment with your best bet for Thursday Night Football, and join us for live recaps every single primetime game. Plus, so like tonight, we'll fire up right after the game ends, and we'll chit chat for like 20 minutes. But we're going to give away a bunch of Brinson Sucks hats on there. So if you want to win one of those, come hang with us, and you can leave your name in the chat, and then you'll be eligible to win. We also have a live pick show today at 1:00, and then on Tuesdays at 1:00, Ryan Wilson hosts a YouTube exclusive mock draft show. That's right. You can get all the Ryan Wilson you want and none of the Brinson if you really do believe that I suck, which is fine. Ravens -7.5 on the road. The over-under here 46.5. Notable injuries: Marquise Brown back at full practice on Tuesday, so he should be good to go. I guess I could see if the Ravens have updated their. Nope, nobody don't like to update the injury report, do they, Sully? Marquise Brown good to go with full practice on Tuesday, barring a setback. Latavius Murray was a DNP on Tuesday. Tavon Young and Brandon Williams both DNPs on Tuesday, and Tua was limited on Tuesday. Of course, we'll know presumably by Wednesday. We record these on Wednesday at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and somehow they don't have practice reports up. Did you see anything out there about Tua other than?
No, the only thing I saw on the Dolphins front was that wide receiver Preston Williams. Brian Flores did say that he would play this week, when he was a healthy scratch last week. So kind of people were surprised, especially when Devontae Parker was put on injured reserve. You thought there'd be more opportunities there for Williams, but no, he didn't end up playing. But it seems like he's going to play this week. So just probably a small thing for DFS more than anything, but no, nothing on Tua.
Okay. But yeah, worth monitoring to see if Tua is a go or not. As far as this game goes, I mean, look, it's kind of tough to take the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, it's really tough. But something does need to give here. It is interesting when you start to look at the trends a little bit. Obviously, the Ravens, pretty big road favorites going into this one. In this season, they haven't won any of those games. They're 0-2 against the spread as a road favorite, and the Dolphins are 0-2 against the spread as a home underdog. So, I mean, something does have to kind of give here with these two teams. I would think it's going to be the Ravens. I just think that, again, it's tough to really keep up with this offense when you're going with a backup quarterback. And I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's a perfectly fine
Love
backup
Jacoby Brissett,
quarterback.
NC State guy, former Pats guy, right?
And former Patriot, former NC State guy. I mean, this is the fan club right here.
That's right. Yeah, this is the Jacoby Brissett Venn diagram of or the Venn diagram of Jacoby Brissett football fans.
I just have a hard time imagining them keeping up with an offense that has 6.1 yards per play, which is one of the best in the NFL this season. And the Dolphins are pretty much at the opposite end of that spectrum, 4.7 yards per play, which is last in the NFL this season. So it's hard to imagine, no matter who's under center for them, that they'll be able to keep up.
Yeah, it really is. Worth noting in this game, by the way, that I need to look and see how far away Pompano Beach to Dolphin Stadium.
It's like 35 miles, right? From
very
Miami.
far. We know who's from Pompano Beach, don't we?
Yep.
Lamar Jackson. Yeah, it is not far at all, just north of Fort Lauderdale, 39 minutes. So there's going to be a significant amount of, one would assume, Lamar Jackson's family members and people who grew up rooting for Lamar Jackson, who have become Ravens fans. Because I think I would assume that like the whole city is a pretty like Ravens fans, even though it's in Miami.
Absolutely.
Like in Louisville, Kentucky, they have a flagship Raven station in Louisville, Kentucky because of Lamar. Like that's like the Louisville fans are huge Ravens fans as a result. So we also have Hollywood Brown. You know how he got the name Hollywood? He's not from California. He's from Hollywood, Florida, to Dolphin Stadium. Let's look. No, not Dolphin Swim, Dolphin Stadium. It's even closer. It's 23 minutes away, 9 miles. You think Hollywood Brown's going to have some friends and family rolling in from Hollywood there? And like these dudes are going to want to show off for their homecoming. And
well, I'll tell you this, Will, they already have, or at least Lamar Jackson already has. We've seen him
2019.
2019, 85 completion percentage, 324 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating. So again, he likes to play at home.
That was the first game of the season, I believe.
It was.
He came out and made a statement of his MVP of the MVP campaign. I think that I think that was probably an underrated thing when we were looking at that game back in 2019. And now you think about it, you're like, oh, he wanted to show off for friends and family.
Yeah, not only that, but he was beginning the year as the bona fide starting quarterback. They had taken pretty much the entire offseason to reconstruct the offense around Lamar Jackson. That was his MVP season in 2019, correct? Like that's
correct.
Pretty much the start of Lamar Jackson takeover, becoming the guy there.
Absolutely.
So again, it's just, you always have that little extra oomph. You find out about them. You find out about these games. Oh, he's from down the street. He's got a million friends and family there, and he wants to show out. There's that little extra juice. Obviously, these players bring it, pretty much 100% every single week. But there's a little added one when you're going home.
I wonder if Pete Prisco would poo-poo the idea that these guys get pumped up for the. Because he probably would, because he always poo-poos anything that I say, like they're extra motivated. He's like, so what does that say about the rest of the time they're motivated? I'm like, Pete, it's not. I mean, like I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like I think they get more pumped up to go home and play. I mean, I know I would do the same thing. Like if I was doing a live podcast in High Point, North Carolina, I'd bring the goods. Like I'd be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know it's not the same thing, obviously, but I agree. I think Lamar goes in there. I think he and Hollywood Brown are amped up for this game. The Dolphins are not a very good defense. They will happily give up points. The Ravens are not exactly an elite defense this year, I don't believe. I
believe they're giving up the second most yards per play in the NFL.
Yeah, they're 26 in DVOA as well. They're better against the run than they are against the pass, but Miami's not exactly an electric passing offense. I lean towards the under here, 46.5, but I don't feel particularly great about it. I think the way that I would look here is, I mean, it's kind of like if the Dolphins can jump out to a lead somehow, like, I mean, we've seen this the last few weeks in primetime games. Like these home weird teams have jumped out to leads in primetime games, right? The Dolphins can easily have a trick play, get the ball first, score, get a stop, a pick six, whatever it is, anything, right? Find a way to get to 14-0 somehow. And if that happens, I would think that the over is more in play because the Ravens are less likely to morph into their ground game. If the Ravens get a lead, I think the under is more likely in play because I just don't have as much faith in Miami's explosive pass offense, particularly with either a banged up Tua or Jacoby Brissett. It's under 50, so it's not a huge number, which is a little scary. And the Ravens are actually passing a lot more this year than they have in years past. This is a team that leaned into the ground game. Like they wanted to have their stable of backs and Lamar Jackson and grind you into dust. And this year they have really been passing a lot more. I also think there's a good case to be made that if Lamar goes down there and lights us up, by the way, that he'll leapfrog into the lead for the MVP in the NFL.
Yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility at all. I mean, right now, it's between Jackson, it's between probably Tom
Brady, Josh Allen are the favorites, Kyler Murray right there, Lamar, Justin Herbert. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wide open. It's stealable if you're Lamar.
Absolutely. Like from here on out, there's really no clear-cut guy at the moment. There's just a bunch of people in that collection. So yeah, certainly Jackson could run out to it. In terms of this game, I mean, if it follows anything that we saw last week, I mean, underdogs were 10-4 last week at Caesars. So I mean, you could absolutely see, the Dolphins, if it carries over, the Dolphins just have a crazy game. In terms of the total, I lean a little bit over just because you see the explosive ability in Baltimore's offense. And like you said, they have to pass a little bit more. And I think that's more out of just not having the right personnel. You got to remember, J.K. Dobbins was supposed to be the running back for this team. And now they've kind of had to scramble. They got lucky for a few weeks with Tyson Williams, but they really just have been able to kind of piece it along with Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman. It's not who they want to have. So it's not surprising to hear that they're passing a little bit more. And ultimately, I just think that they're just an offense that has a little bit of a higher ceiling that can almost get you 3/4 of the way there anyways.
Lamar is averaging over 8 pass attempts per game more than he averaged last year, which is kind of stunning, right? I mean, that's a significant number. He's got 7 interceptions already. A couple of them have been pretty bad, but 13 passing touchdowns. Finished with 26 passing touchdowns last year in 15 games. And I'm trying to look. Let's see, what did he in 2019 when he won the MVP? He had 15 games. He was averaging 26.7 pass attempts per game. He's up to 33 plus on average this year. They're just throwing the ball a lot more. He is completing let's see, what is he at? He's at 65%, completing a high rate. He's averaging 8.3 yards per attempt. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's looking sharp. He's really, Hollywood Brown has kind of taken a step forward as a true, maybe not a true number 1 wide receiver, but a legitimate wide receiver, whereas we thought he was just sort of a burner with questionable hands last year. And Mark Andrews has morphed into just a monster at the tight end position, even if he doesn't end up having huge games all the time. They run the ball a ton with Devontae Freeman, and which is something. But
don't sleep on Rashad Bateman, who's starting to come on a little bit this year too,
for sure. So yeah, I would. I'm staying away from that total, but I think I like the Ravens kind of a lot here. 7.5.
I love the Ravens. I'm with you. I lean over, but I would probably stay away.
The Ravens are also a pretty good teaser piece if you don't mind leaving it open for a couple of days. Get them down to 1.5. Just tease us. They just need to win, right? Or use them in a money line parlay. Whatever one is better. I could maybe be talked into the over, but right now I'm on the under.
I'll tell you this season really quickly. The Ravens are 5-3 with the over.
Oh, okay. And yeah, I mean, if they're passing a bunch and their defense isn't playing very well, Miami could pretty easily put up points on Baltimore. So don't let me deter you from betting, not you, but like the general listening public. Don't let me deter you from taking the over if you like it. Just something about Baltimore and Miami just feels very undery. But I mean, the Ravens could hang 50 on Miami if they're feeling like it. If Lamar's and Hollywood are feeling the homecoming, I mean, they could put up monster numbers against this team.
I believe 50 is what they hung in that week 1 game. Again, we don't have to keep pointing that it's not exactly going to translate, but just, we're saying this
translates pretty well.
I mean, they're going home.
59-10 was the final score. 643 yards, 378 passing yards, 265 rushing yards. And coming into that game, oh, by the way, 2 first quarter touchdown passes from Lamar to Hollywood.
Interesting.
Muy interesante. Yeah, I'm not getting near that under. Even Robert Griffin, Lamar was 17 to 20 for 324 yards, 5 touchdowns with a perfect passer rating. Robert Griffin came in and mop duty with 6 of 6 for 55 and a touch. Like John Harbaugh's not scared to let his dude go out there and show out for his family.
No, absolutely not. I mean, this is kind of, they're definitely one of those teams that is more than happy to not necessarily run up the score, but run up the score. They're ready to go.
Not afraid to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will do props. Okay, so props in this game. You could probably guess from the way that we described, the way that we talked about the game, what sort of direction we might go with said props. I actually wrote down Lamar Jackson over rushing yards as one, 63.5. You've got Lamar Jackson over passing yards, 232.5, and I love that as well. I might actually, did I write down rush yards or pass yards? I wrote down pass yards. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
Okay.
Cool.
I was going to say the rush yards concerns me a little bit just because short week, they've had to run them a lot. They're coming off that overtime win against the Minnesota Vikings. I wonder how much they're going to expose them to the running game if they can avoid it, especially against the team where they can throw a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was looking at, I guess what I was looking at was, let's see, I lost my place in 2021. Lamar game logs. I was looking at the last 2 weeks, he started to pick up the running a lot more. Really I guess he had that lull against Detroit and Denver where he only ran 7 times each game. The last 4 weeks, he's averaging, what was he averaging? He's averaging 13.8 rush attempts per game and 80.3 rush yards per game. Of course, that's buoyed by 121 carries last week and 120 rush yards in a furious comeback against Minnesota. And maybe you're onto something there, Sully. Maybe it's simply, they were in comeback mode. He's having to take off and run a bunch. It was a furious, fast game. So, yeah, if this is a blowout, he's probably not gonna run a ton.
And the other thing too is, and you noted this before the break too, they're just passing a lot more. I mean, he's gone over this passing yard total every single time this season except for once. I mean, it's not like he's, it's not like this is
a low number.
It's just exactly. It's just a low number.
I'm betting that right now.
I think his rushing attempts was sitting around like 9.5.
9.5. Yeah.
So I don't really want to mess around with, predicting a double digit, carries for him on a short week in a game where, again, it could get out of hand. They could get to a lead here. And if they do, you saw it in that game back in week 1 in 2019. He really didn't run a lot.
Yeah. No, he ran 3 times for 6 yards. You're right. All right. Okay, that's actually what happened. I wrote down rush yards at first in the rundown. I was looking at it, but then when I actually sent him in, I sent in pass yards and the pass touchdowns over. That pass touchdowns over, I'm seeing it at all the way up now at minus 156 to get to 2 passing touchdowns. I mean, that's a lot. It's minus 130 over at Caesars. That is a minus 130. That is a slammer.
Yeah, hit that.
That's a free. I mean, not a free bet. I mean, because we could see Devontae Freeman punch him in, but. We look at that 2019 game, and again, talk about it being a homecoming. They want to pass more, want to show off what he can do as a passer in this game. And the pass yards number, by the way, up to 228.5 now. Oh, no, down to 228.5. Come down?
Well, it seems like it's coming down. I don't care. I'll hit it.
That doesn't make any sense. I think it was like 223 earlier today. I mean, I just like the over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to take that over as well. So we're both on that. I mean, for all the reasons we talked about before. And you've got Mark Andrews over receptions too, right?
Yeah, it's 3.5, or at least when I saw it. I mean, I just think, again, that's just a number that's a little too low for somebody who is arguably the number 1 pass catching option for them in the offense. I mean, it's him or Marquise Brown. He's gone over in all but 2 games this season. And I believe he's averaged 9 targets in the last 3 weeks. So it's not like you're asking him to be, this most efficient guy. If he's getting, 5 targets a game, 4 targets a game, you got to just have a perfect day. He's getting 9 targets, or roughly 9 targets. That's an inefficient day, roughly, if you're talking about 4 receptions there. And the other thing with this one that I like, Miami's averaging 5.3 catches to opposing tight ends this season.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. That's why I've got on my list Andrews anytime touchdown. It's plus 135. You can bet him first touchdown at 7-1, which is nice, but I'll take anytime touchdown on Andrews because just because I think that's a pretty likely outcome to happen. I would be really surprised if the Ravens don't have four plus touchdowns here. I mean, I think they're getting to 28. It would shock me if they didn't. The over 3.5 is minus 170. That's a lot of. I don't hate the over at all. Like I think he gets over that. That's just
the value isn't great.
Yeah, it's the same amount of juice. I see a over under out. I mean, just this is what I got on my local is over under 4.5. The over 4.5 receptions at plus 110, which I don't really help. Obviously, they're just projecting 4 receptions, or the market is sort of projecting 4 receptions for Andrews, which I still think feels kind of low.
Yeah, I think again, he's averaging 9 targets a game. You're talking about being, just okay, like mediocre efficiency wise. Like it's not like, if he comes up with 4 or 5 catches, that's, it's still a good day. If you're talking about somebody who's probably going to have, some targets over the middle of the field, very catchable balls, you're talking about a 6 catch day. That's kind of what I'm looking at, where it's like, all right, that's not out of the realm of possibility here. I believe he's double-digit targets.
5.3 catches per game, which is bolstered. Obviously when they do these props, a lot of time they're using the median and not the average.
Yeah.
That's bolstered by his 11 catch explosion game against Indianapolis on that Monday night when he had 11 catches, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that both he and Marquise Brown can eat in this spot and have huge games. Yeah. I've got Sullivan Ahmed over rush yards, which I believe has probably moved up at 13.5. It's a slammer. If it gets up to like 17 or something like that, I don't know that you take it. If you look at what the Dolphins have done the last few weeks, Miami had basically went away from Sullivan Ahmed last week. He had 4 carries for 6 yards. But he had the last 3 weeks before that, 7 carries for 22, 7 carries for 26, 7 carries for 22. Not big afternoons at the office, right? Like he's not going to go huge, but a really consistent number of carries that he had gotten. And then for whatever reason against Houston, they decided to try and make Myles Gaskin the bell cow back. He had 20 carries for what's that, a robust 34 yards and he scored a touchdown, but that's just horrendous. 6 catches for 23 yards. It wasn't used at all. And I would guess that given the inefficiency of Gaskin there, that they dial that back and even things out a little bit. And that's a pretty good number at 13.5. You really just need, what do we need here? 5 carries to get to,
you're talking about a series where he's just kind of the guy and they're going tempo and he's just getting a lot of touches. You can easily see where that happens.
Even if he averages 3 yards a carry, which is absolutely horrendous, 5 catches, five carries get you there. Yeah. I think he gets 5 carries. And so I would bet that number is, let's see if it's moved up at all. Total rushing yards. Caesars just changed around their props and it is difficult. It's up to 14.5. Over is minus 140. I'd still take that. I'm going to for the purposes of this podcast, I guess I graded on 14.5 minus 146. That's what it's at, but that's fine. I think up to like 16 is perfectly good. Oh yeah, you've got one more as well.
Yeah. Lastly is Jalen Waddle total. I said passing yards. Obviously, he's not passing. It's receiving yards. I just can't type. 60.5. To me, again, if they're going to be down in this game, they're going to be passing a lot more. And who's the guy that can be that explosive piece in that offense? It's Jalen Waddle. And again, he's gone over this in 3 of his last 4 games. The one game he missed it, he had 11 targets. He just couldn't really haul him in. I think he had 4 receptions in that game. He's looked at a ton, whether it's Tua Tagovailoa or Jacoby Brissett. To me, the volume will be there. It's just a matter of can he actually be efficient with his catches and going up against the Ravens defense that hasn't been particularly great. So, this one I do like from a multiple reasons.
Agreed. I don't mind that at all. By the way, before we get into first touchdown performer, let's just look back really quickly at our Bears and Steelers props. I meant to do that before. Can we check that out? Let's see what we got on props. Cole Kmet over receiving yards. Check. Najee Harris over rushing yards. We both missed, but that's not our fault. No. Justin Fields over rushing yards. Did he get there?
Boy, I'm pretty sure he did.
I'm sure he did. Yeah. And Ben Roethlisberger.
That one that one did not work out well.
Yeah, it did not work
out with that one.
Pat Freiermuth over 35.5. Bing. And also I said on the podcast, it wasn't written down there, but I think I said Kmet over receptions and receiving yards, or at least somebody texted me. It was like, come at, bam, early. I was like, oh yeah, did I say that on the podcast? I mean, I bet it. I bet the over receptions and over receiving yards. And then that Najee Harris over rushing attempts got it was a little. He had 9 in the first quarter, and then it took a little while to get there, but it got there pretty easily.
No, good week for us.
Yeah, very good week for us. Let's we got that's right. We had a big Thursday and I guess now we want it to be a big Monday into Thursday. So let's
it's a weird crossover. We're the bridge.
Yeah.
We're the bridge into the week.
I know. I talked to you. We talk twice a week, and it's during the same actual week, but it's 4 different weeks, which is very discombobulating. So back to the Dolphins and Ravens. Let's look at our first touchdown picks here. I mean, I'll be honest, like, again, this is a thing that's really happened in the last 6 weeks where they have shrunk the crap out of these markets. And it's very frustrating. There's not a ton of value out there. You know, you're having to bet. Like, it used to be you would see Devontae Adams would be 8-1 for a Packers game. And it was like they had finally got Devontae Adams into 8-1. He was like the only guy who was that low. And now it's just everybody is under that number because I think they just were getting, I think the sportsbooks are just getting kind of hit with these a lot. Yeah. And so you have Devontae Freeman plus 575 because he is the lead running back on the team favored by 7.5 points. Mark Andrews 7-1, Lamar Jackson 7-1, Marquise Brown 8-1, Myles Gaskin 8-1. I mean, yeah, like look at this. Andrews is already down 50 cents since I sent those in this afternoon. Jalen Waddle 11-1, Mike Gesicki down to 11-1. Boo. Is Le'Veon Bell playing this week? He is, yeah. 14-1. I mean, what are we doing? Sammy Watkins 16-1. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman 19-1. Anything? What stands out to you here, Sully?
To me, I guess Gesicki is one. If you're looking at somebody from the Dolphins, if there's a little bit of value there, I had it at 12-1. You can get it 11-1, like you said right now. The one to me, and again, it's it used to be that you could get this at a better number, but Marquise Brown plus 850. I just have a feeling we got this homecoming narrative going on. That one is that's the one I'm probably most excited about going into this game, just because we talked about it. The homecoming, there's a history that both of those guys, him and Lamar Jackson, showing out in those games. And would it surprise you at all if they just, come out of the gates early, they get the ball and they take a couple of deep shots just to make a statement? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. I'll tell you this. I like, I mentioned, Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. I just actually literally just bet as we're speaking at plus 150 for anytime touchdown. I also like Hollywood Brown plus 120 anytime touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hanging this on the 2019 argument that these guys went down there for a statement game to open the season. They're playing in their hometown. They're playing in front of their friends and family, and they wanted to show off, and they did with 2 early touchdowns in that game. I agree with you. I'll be betting Hollywood Brown for first touchdown just because, I mean, 8.5-1, like, I don't think that's that great, but that narrative for me is pretty strong. The idea that these 2 guys are like, look, they're talking to Harbaugh. They're talking to Greg Roman. They're cooking up some shots to take early in the game because they've seen the formula work with a better, by the way, Miami Dolphins team, I think, or maybe you're like, yeah, had to be better than this crap they're rolling up this year, where you get up on them early and you can just pile it on and it's over. So I like that look a lot. Somehow first touchdown is off on my site. What's going on here? Boo. Anyway, I like Gesicki. We both have Gesicki. If you think it's a Dolphins touchdown, 11-1, I mean, I guess it's not terrible. You'd think if Devontae Freeman at 5.5-1, we get Gesicki at like 15-1 or something like that.
Right. I was going to say, under previous circumstances, you're talking about, I don't know, 18-1, 20-1 for somebody like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And now Gesicki's been really good though.
He's been great.
Yeah. I like Brown, Gesicki, and Andrews. I actually think there's like a little bit of value maybe in Lamar at 7.5-1. I mean, that you would think he'd be the guy who's 5-1. I guess he hasn't been running quite as much in the red zone, but still, Lamar Jackson 7-1, he could get there. But I think there's 2 main pass catchers for Lamar, and then Gesicki are the 3 guys that I would target. And maybe we'll take a look at somebody a little further down the board later. All right, that's it for the gambling and the props. If you want to hear us talk about DFS for this game, spoiler, you might want to have Lamar Jackson. Head on over to YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. If you're watching on YouTube now, stay where you are and hit that like button if you haven't already. It's not the world's greatest ending to the. It's very awkward, Sully, because we're not going anywhere. When I
Right.
hang up,
We don't end. We just
you
keep
know that.
going.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The podcast just ends. Um, okay, so let's talk DFS here. Lamar Jackson. He ain't cheap.
no, not at all.
$20,700 for Lamar Jackson as a captain. You don't even really save that much with Hollywood Brown. 16.5 for the captain spot. Tua and Jacoby Brissett priced up there. We talk about usually you see the backup quarterback being priced down, where you can see Huntley down there, Tyler Huntley down there at 9,000. If Tua was 100% healthy, maybe Brissett is down there. Good job by DraftKings here, though, setting it up where Jacoby Brissett is priced as if there's a chance Tua won't play. In other words, Jacoby Brissett at 14.7, Tua at 15.3. It doesn't skew the slate if Tua is indeed ruled out. Myles Gaskin, a robust 14.1 as a captain. Mark Andrews, 13.2. Jalen Waddle, 12.3. Gesicki in 5 figures too at 11.1, and then Latavius Murray 10,500. I don't know what we're doing there. Devontae Freeman 9.9, and that's everybody before the captains. After them, I guess you could look. I'm looking at Rashad Bateman 8.7. Wow, that's expensive for him. Le'Veon Bell 8.1. Devin DuVernay 7.2. Ravens defense 6.6, and then you sort of get to the guys you would take flyers on instead. If we believe that the Ravens are going to dominate, it is hard to get away from Lamar Jackson as a captain, even at $20,700.
Well, I was going to say, is this the most expensive captain that we've seen this season? It feels like, at least for these games that me and you have been doing.
Yeah,
it absolutely feels like that.
I don't think we've seen it ticking up lately, where they're trying to really price up these slate breaking quarterbacks. But yeah, 27 is the most expensive I've seen.
Yeah,
that will make it difficult.
Yeah, it's a wild captain number, but still, I mean, you can. I talk a lot about, it's tough to fit in these guys in the captain spot and roster construction and blah, blah, blah. But I've been able to kind of finagle it a little bit with Lamar Jackson. Again, you can go the 3-3 split and see if you can still get some playmakers in there and make it work. One that I made was Lamar at your captain. You still have Mark Andrews ready to roll. The only other Raven would be Justin Tucker. That's the only kind of weird spot that you would put in there. But then you can come around with Jalen Waddle, Gesicki, and Ahmed and still make a decent roster there.
All right, so here's the Lamar I did. I mean, I'm going to enter this right now, but let's go ahead and fire this one up. I got Lamar captain. You can click his name. I don't really know how this worked. I got Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. We'll go to Marquise Brown first because he's at the top at 11,000. Then Mark Andrews at tight end there. I'm also going to throw in Mike Gesicki at 7.4. I know Gesicki and Gaskin are very confusing right there. I don't know how the hell Myles Gaskin is priced above Mike Gesicki. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And then we're going to scroll all the way down and grab Sullivan Ahmed, who I mentioned. I think we'll get, not like 15 yards is going to win this. He's probably going to need a touchdown at $800, but maybe Gaskin is gassed from all those carries, and they end up, giving Ahmed the more run this time. We've seen,
or they're just mad about the inefficiency.
Sure, Brian Flores ain't scared to bitch. He bitched Tua 4 or 5 times last year. He ain't scared. And then finally, we're going to round it out with Patrick Ricard at $1,500. Somehow I have that much left. Oh no, he's $1,000. Excuse me. His captain salary is $1,500. Right? Is that right? That's right. Yeah. Last week, 3 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown, 5 targets. He's had a couple games this year where he's been targeted. I don't expect a lot from him. It's just sort of a flyer there at $1,000 to differentiate what I think will be probably a popular buildup. Because I mean, look, if I can do that, I mean that Lamar, Marquise, and Mark Andrews stacks, I would assume will be popular.
Yeah. I think what we're going to have to look at here a little bit, and talking about differentiating these lineups, is those wide receivers that are kind of in that middle tier rounds, like a Mac Hollins will maybe be somebody that you pay attention to. He caught a touchdown, I think, last week. He's caught a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 games. So again, that's somebody from Miami that maybe is the number 2 opposite of Jalen Waddle. You know, is he someone who gets some volume there? Is a Duvernay somebody you pay attention to? A Sammy Watkins? Like, those are the kind of guys that I think will be difference makers in this slate, because you'll get a lot of that. You'll get a lot of these top tier guys, and then we're going to come down for Ahmed, Preston Williams, and Ricard or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're gonna. I mean, like a lot of these showdown slates, this one is probably gonna, the way that you're gonna win it is, by selecting the correct guys at the, that you're filling out your lineup with. Obviously, if Lamar has a massive Lamar game, it will be very difficult to win anything without him as your captain, and that's the risk you run if you want to differentiate yourself. I do think you could make the case though for some of the other Ravens, particularly Mark Andrews at 13-2 or Marquise Brown at 16-5. And I mean, I know we're beating this to death with the 2019 thing, but that was Brian Flores. That was John Harbaugh. That was the stadium. It's, Hollywood is a better player than he was then. Lamar is a better player than he was then. It's just as an overall passer. And I mean, they didn't rush Lamar, as we pointed out. They had Gus Edwards there. They didn't. They wouldn't have had. Oh my gosh, the guy that the running back. What?
Ingram.
No, they did have Ingram, but they didn't have what's his name? The running back that they.
Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, Dobbins. Thank you. I've forgotten his name twice in the last week. I'm getting very old. Ingram had 14 carries for 100 yards. Gus Edwards 17 carries. Justice Hill 7 carries. So I mean, they didn't. They didn't they didn't just say we're passing all the time. Lamar only threw 20 times, right? But he was so efficient down the field that it didn't matter. I mean, he was 324 yards on 20 passes is insane. If he runs, or I guess I should say, if he doesn't run like he didn't run in that game, at $20,000, he will probably not be the optimal captain.
No. And again, you're talking a lot about Marquise Brown being that kind of connection. But we've seen earlier in the year the connection between him and Mark Andrews in that win. I believe it was against it's escaping me, but I forget who that win was. But when the two of them just went absolutely the Colts. They went bananas against the Colts. If that similar game script happens, Mark Andrews is probably your optimal captain at that point.
For sure. So let's build out two lineups real quick with let's do one. Let's clear it out. And let's start with Hollywood Brown.
Sure.
And go. And the question is, if you go Hollywood as the captain, do you fade Mark Andrews, or do you want to try and get greedy and get both? Now, we're going to put Lamar in all of these.
Yeah, Lamar, you can't. I don't think you can not. I mean, listen, if you are the Millie Maker or whatever it is this week without Lamar Jackson, congratulations.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to get cute that way.
What was the one that we did the other day where it was like, you can't fade this?
Najee. I think it was Najee.
Yeah, there's Najee on Monday. You definitely could have faded Najee, I think.
Yeah, you might have been able to.
Yeah. No, the optimal lineup had Najee in it, but it was Freiermuth as captain.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, it was the Steelers right up until the very end when the game went, when the game went nuts and the Bears scored a bunch of points, Steelers fell out. But the point being is yes, Najee Harris seemed like the most obvious captain choice because he's going to get the volume. The Bears aren't very good at stopping the run. This is just what it's going to look like. And then at the end of the day, it wasn't him. I mean, that can be true for Lamar Jackson too. Now you run the risk so for instance, we've seen cases with the Green Bay Packers in these showdown slates where Devontae Adams gets so much of the distribution of the passes that ultimately he is more valuable than Aaron Rodgers because you're getting points per reception, receiving yards are more valuable than passing yards, et cetera, et cetera. The touchdown's more valuable. So in this instance, we're going to say Hollywood Brown as our captain. We're going to put Lamar in there because you got to put Lamar in there. And then the question becomes, do you want to fade Mark Andrews? Or because if you go Mark Andrews, you probably have to go 3 Dolphins with the pricing. Maybe you could go with a 4th, like a Ricard or something like that. But you could go with a Jalen Waddle here as a higher up.
Let's see Waddle. I think Waddle might be interesting.
I like Waddle. Waddle's been getting a ton of targets and catching a bunch of passes lately too. And then you can actually let's scroll down a little ways and actually right there, Rashad Bateman at 5'8". You mentioned him, and let's grab Justin Tucker, because in this scenario, they're scoring lots of points. Maybe they get stopped in the red zone once or twice. You could also go Ravens defense there too, if you were so inclined, instead of Tucker. And that leaves us with what, 1,700.
And
So
you're
we
right
got,
there with Ricard or Ahmed or whoever you want.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could do the 4-2 will probably be more popular. Let's see what we got. Producer Chris, and scroll down there. Tyson Williams hadn't got enough run, I don't think, to qualify. Ricard's at 1,000. I mean, Ahmed is fine for me at 800 there, because I think his role is probably more secure.
Yeah,
you're getting a higher floor with Ahmed than you do with Ricard, who, because again, like when we're building out this particular lineup, our assumption is like that the Ravens are going to put up a ton of points.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, now the only problem is you sort of want to get a running back in there for the Ravens. So pop out Bateman, and let's scroll up and see if we can get Freeman. I think we can. Can you get to Freeman? Oh yeah, there we go. All right, that's okay. So I like the idea of Bateman. Don't get me wrong at all. And if I'm building this lineup, I'm probably gonna build one with Bateman and one with Freeman. Just like I'm gonna build one with Ahmed and one with Ricard. You want to have options, especially if you're entering multiple lineups. The thing about this, though, when I look at that back at that 2019 game, as I point out, they scored 59 points, but they ran the ball a ton. I mean, they ran the ball almost 40 times. No, well over 40 times if you count Lamar's runs. So they just lit up the Dolphins secondary. The Dolphins secondary is definitely better than it was in 2019, but there's still the distinct possibility that Baltimore just goes up top and then proceeds to run the ball aggressively. And if that's the case, you're going to want to have a Freeman or a Lev Bell, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. That's one of those lineups where if you don't have a running back, you're going to see yourself pretty high up in those standings. And then as the game goes down, you're going to slowly creep down.
Exactly.
It's going to kill you inside.
Yeah, that would be tough to watch. Hey, let's take out Tucker there too, really quickly. And 4,100, is that Bell's 54? Take out Waddle too. I just want to see if we can get, and then grab Le'Veon Bell, because we don't think that, oh man. So, like, Latavius Murray probably shouldn't play in this game, right?
No, probably not.
Probably not. So we're looking at Le'Veon Bell and Devontae Freeman getting the lion's share of carries. And just looking back at the Ravens, let's see, looking back at the Ravens last game. And
Bell had a touchdown.
Yeah. But I mean, I want to say that against Minnesota, that both of them had 13 carries for Freeman, 11 carries for Bell, and the touchdown. So, I kind of like this formula. It's basically they are going to score with Lamar and Brown, and then they're just going to feed Bell and Freeman with a big lead and melt away the clock. And, again, the over under, this is sort of the idea for how they get to the under, but they scored 59 points this way before. That leaves us with 6,900. By chance, could Mike Gesicki fit into that? Is it going to be? Oh, no. 74. Crap. So you could go with Gesicki, plug Gesicki in there. Let's see if we can ditch Ahmed for somebody is there somebody cheaper?
You could go, and again, this one's a little bit risky because he was a healthy scratch last week, but Preston Williams is only $200. Or is it, $200.
That is Preston Williams for $200. Or James Prochet. Yeah. I mean, Prochet is a dart thrower for sure.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go with, Preston Williams, Prochet. Isaiah Ford's down there. Scroll down. Who else is down at the 200s? Patrick Laird, Miles Boykin. I mean, these are not guys who you were hoping for like one catch.
Yeah, the weird 1 yard touchdown catch.
Stone cold men, as the ETR crew likes to say. If you get one catch, don't even have to be a touchdown. One catch for 10 yards, you're getting flames on the $200 guy. And if you happen to have a $200 guy who catches a touchdown, you've got some action cooking.
Yeah, you're live.
Who was the one? There was somebody. Was it last week?
Are you talking about the Colts game? Ashton, that guy, whatever his name. Whatever his name.
He it off.
Yeah, he had a couple of catches there. It was all right
for sure. Okay, so do we want to build one with Andrews too, just in case it's
sure.
Right. let's clear. So basically, the point being is if you go Hollywood like that, you've got all those variations that you can operate with him. We can clear that out now and try Andrews as our captain. Scroll up. He is expensive, right?
Well, I'll tell you this. Well, we can maybe have that same lineup, but
Mhm.
maybe we could throw Gesicki in there when we could try to fit him in.
That's right. Now the other thing is too is like as much as we're hyping up this narrative of Hollywood Brown, it's like do you dare get away from Hollywood Brown? Like
In general.
I guess it's possible that the cornerbacks are just good enough for Miami where they minimize. See, I don't think you'll have a ton of ownership on Hollywood either as the captain because of the narrative that you can run against the Dolphins. So we go Andrews. You can just automatically plug Lamar in there. We're not building out a freaking lineup without Lamar. I guess you could get to the optimal. It's hard to
imagine. Or it's not hard to imagine, but it's it would take a lot.
Impossible, but it's not likely.
Yeah.
So then we got Gesicki. Is that what we said? Gesicki in there?
Yeah, you can throw him in there.
All right. And then who else do we want to plug in here?
Do we throw? Are we going to try to follow that same route, or are we going to try to make this more of like a shootout-y type of vibe? So do we go like Waddle now?
Yeah, I like that idea. Go Waddle here. Yeah, like every single one. You shouldn't build every single lineup as if it's a Ravens blowout.
No.
So you go Waddle at 8,200, and then that leaves us 74. That's certainly enough to get
You can get Bateman.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can go Bateman or one of the running backs. Actually, you're right. If you're going with Waddle and Gesicki in there, Bateman's the play, I think.
Yeah.
And then that leaves you enough you can go back to Ahmed. You could go Adam Shaheen, Albert Wilson.
Yeah, pick your poison on that point.
I think Ahmed is the guy that we're certainly locking into. I like that lineup.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay. So those are probably going to be my three choices for captain. And I bet I will have a lot more Marquise Brown than the field just because his ceiling is enormous. I think it's higher than even what some people are giving it credit for. And that the sort of the Hollywood narrative, the Florida narrative.
Well, even if you're talking about like if we're talking, if it's going to be a Dolphins heavy stack, I still think you probably would want to have a combination of Hollywood, Lamar, most likely, or Andrews as your captain, because let's just say the Dolphins are having a lead here. The Ravens are chucking it around the field.
Oh yeah. No. I think so too. If you're going, we can build a Costanza lineup in a second where we have four Dolphins. I'm probably not going to go more than four Dolphins in a lot. I'm not going to go 5-1 Dolphins.
5-1. I don't think you can do 5-1.
You can maybe if you have Lamar as your captain and you hope he distributes it evenly and runs a ton. You know?
Yeah.
But if the Dolphins have a lead and the Ravens are chucking it around, as you point out, in this Costanza lineup, you're gonna need like you're gonna need somebody able to come back. Like you're gonna need pass catching weapons. So I think the Costanza lineup in that sense would be 4-2 Dolphins to Ravens. You sort of pick your, whether you want to do Andrews or Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
What about
and there goes Will. We lost Will. It's okay. If we're gonna do a Costanza lineup, though, I'll just talk now. If we're gonna do a Costanza lineup, I still think, like we were saying, I would probably do Lamar at my captain spot. That's probably the number one that I would still lean on. And then you, again, pick your poison on whether you want to go with Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews. I would go with Mark Andrews just to keep that from a salary standpoint to still fit things in. And then if you want to move it around a little bit, I think we could still go with Gesicki. I'm going to try to fit in Gesicki, Waddle, and you could work it down. I still think, this is one that I was thinking about. You lost your will, but I was riffing anyways.
No, go ahead. No, great job. No, well, I don't know. My Chrome has been randomly crashing.
All right.
But usually it's when I fire up YouTube TV, and I was like, man, I was thinking before this podcast, I was like, what's weird? It hadn't crashed at all during StreamYard once this season. And then boom, immediately, of course. Go riff away. Keep riffing.
No, so we were just saying, obviously you got to have Lamar as or not obviously, but you would want to have Lamar as your captain. And I don't know if we're going to do this 4-2 Dolphins, is it going to be a combination of Marquise Brown or Mark Andrews, or do you go a little bit further down the line and hope for a Bateman and then to fill out some more capital with your Dolphins. So you're not, picking through the barrel of the Dolphins here.
No, I was actually going to suggest that we build right when I crash. I was going to suggest building a Rashad Bateman captain lineup.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to try that? Let's do that
Let's try it.
first.
Let's clear it out and try a Bateman captain. He's projecting pretty well on the optimals or like on the optimizers, which means that, I mean, one, that's always, it's not a bad thing, but it also means he could be maybe a little more chalky captain than you might expect. A lot of people I think who play fantasy and who play DFS are sort of like, all right, Rashad Bateman's coming on, coming on. Like, is this where Rashad? That seems to be sort of a narrative that's building. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I have him in season long, and I'm like, I'm getting excited about him. So yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, because he didn't play until week 6. He's had he's played 3 games, 6 targets, and 8 targets in those 3 games. He's certainly getting used. And I think, there's if you're Lamar Jackson and you're Greg Roman and John Harbaugh, you want to get this rookie who missed a lot of the early season some confidence as you start to get towards playoff time and you feel like you're going to be playing in the postseason. You want to make sure that he is readily available and producing at a high level. So
well, that's exactly it. I mean, you want this guy feeling good, feeling loose. He hasn't reached the end zone yet, so it's like we still haven't seen that peak fantasy performance from him yet. So no, it could absolutely happen.
And at 8-7 is in the captain spot, you can get a lot going here. So let's of course throw Lamar in there as a piece here, and I think we probably throw in. Do we throw in Hollywood and try to get Andrews in there?
We can try. I mean,
let's try Hollywood. Let's try Hollywood first. If you go to yeah. Oh yeah, we can definitely get him in there. All right, let's throw Hollywood in there too. This is a full-blown onslaught.
Yeah, this is a
so 38.5. Let's scroll down a little bit. How much are the Ravens? The only downside to this one is that if you excuse me, you could go Freeman and then do Ahmed as your only Dolphins player. I mean, the question is, do we think that the I mean, I'm definitely gonna have one of these because you can that is an onslaught of Ravens. Let's bonk out Freeman and Ahmed for a second. That I will be playing that Bateman lineup there for sure. And so what do you think? Go one of Andrews or Brown?
Yeah, I would say, again, you can pick your poison on either one you want.
So go ahead and toss that one in there.
Do we want to keep Brown or Andrews?
I think keep Andrews if we're going with Bateman as a captain.
Yeah,
I think that gives you a lot of money to play with, and so
I agree.
You could probably go Waddle and Gesicki, right?
Let's see. Yep. Yeah, and you still have 3,100 left over to kind of mess around with.
Yep, 3,100.
Which isn't really that like a crazy number from where we were at. I mean, you're talking about Dolphins
down
defense.
A little bit, Chris, so people can see who the options that are there.
Like you're talking Dolphins defense, Tyson Williams. It's not like you're right back to where you're in the same regard. Ahmed,
Smythe
Williams comments. Yeah, Smythe. You're in that realm again. So it's as much as you're saving your salary, it's not like you're really banking it to get somebody that's going to drastically improve your roster. You know what I mean? From what we were doing earlier.
I will say that I think our good pal Larry Hartstein, of course, friend of the show, good friend in real life. He is on, or he bet over Durham Smythe, 8.5 receiving yards, noting that he played 45 snaps last week as Miami used a lot of 2 tight end sets. Ravens give up a ton of receiving yards to tight ends. Check those guys out on the early edge. Of course, they do great work there. That's not a terrible look.
Okay.
Let's toss Durham Smythe, D Smythe in there as well at 1,800. That leaves you, 1,300 left over, man. What's the difference? That's not enough to get up to. Okay, so I mean, I'm trying to think who. I don't know if there's anybody that you can upgrade this lineup with, really.
No, you really can't unless that's who you would upgrade.
That lineup would be unique.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are playing this one. Well, I mean, you still have. It's not like you're missing it's not like you're having none of these heavy hitter players. I mean, you still have a ton, but you're differentiating it a little bit with Bateman as your captain. It's not the most.
No. I mean, I think no, I agree completely. I mean, I don't think that I mean, there's nothing wrong with leaving $1,300 on the table in a showdown slate.
No.
Especially this one in particular with the way that the quarterbacks are priced. Let's clear this one out and do what would the Costanza lineup be?
It's
To
got to be a
scroll-
4-2 Dolphins, right? That's
I
kind
think
of what we were talking about earlier before you jumped off. It's like even if you still are doing this Costanza Dolphins, I don't know if we want to call it onslaught, but Dolphins win or keep it close. I still think you need to have Lamar in there at some capacity, whether
For
it's the
sure.
captain or not.
So let's do either Waddle or Gesicki. Let's do Gesicki as the captain here.
Yep.
And sorry, that's flex. It doesn't reset. Unbelievable. It's a freaking site. You clear it out, it should automatically reset. What are we doing here? Let's see. So if you do, let's see, Gesicki as captain, and I mean, if you're building this out on like a optimizer, this is not gonna like he's not a he doesn't rate well in terms of being a good captain. I agree that we need to go Lamar and either Mark Andrews or Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. I would probably go Andrews for the savings because this is going to be our only other Raven, right? We're going to do a 2-4.
Yep.
So yeah,
So you go Andrews for the savings, and you look at the I guess the Dolphins give a ton of receiving yards, but all right. So then we need to have 3 more Dolphins. Sort of have to have the quarterback, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's go Brissett. I really don't think Tua is going to play.
No, I don't think so.
Man, Brissett, that knocks you out of getting Waddle. It's annoying. I mean, I'm trying to think who else is getting targets besides Waddle had 10 targets last week.
We can go Matt Collins.
Yeah, it just feels like
he won't be in a lot of lineups.
I mean, Waddle hasn't had an obscene amount of targets this year.
Yeah.
He's had double-digit targets 4 times and hasn't really had an explosion game. Hadn't had an explosion game at all. Maybe 10 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns against Jacksonville in London. Let's what if we ditch Andrews and go Bateman?
Okay.
So you go Bateman, and then we can get Waddle in there. Again, this is not what I would want to do. Like this is not
right. We're talking
1,300 left over, which is going to be. I think we go Ahmed here because you're going.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It's an interesting lineup.
It's not an attractive lineup. I'm gonna see what that projects out to be scoring wise. Lock in Ahmed, Waddle, and where's you know what? That's why I wasn't doing it because Brissett's not even listed on here. That's annoying. Let's see. I'm gonna optimize that. We'll see. What do we think Brissett's projected for? Tua's projected for like 16, 17 points.
I'd pretty much give him the same.
So let's say 15 points.
Yeah.
So this is it's like projected for like 95 total points with this lineup, which is actually not as bad as you would think.
No, it's not terrible.
I mean, it's possible the Dolphins just sling it around and have a huge game. I mean, it's unlikely.
Yeah, it's not the most likely thing that's going to happen on Thursday, but it's probably not the least unlikely thing to happen.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible that they like move Byron Jones inside, like have him float around and just cover Mark Andrews, and Xavier Howard is draped all over Hollywood Brown,
or this could just, or it's just this is the Rashad Bateman game. It's just this is his coming out party.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally fine. Totally can see that.
And like, you're gonna if this lineup hits, it's hitting. Like you're not.
Oh man,
you're not splitting $1 million down to like 25 ways. There's gonna be maybe one other person is a psychopath enough to do this, which makes me want to put it in like right now. It's just because it's so ridiculous. And of course, obviously, monitor if
if Tua plays, does that really change much of your opinion?
Take out what's that?
If Tua plays, does that really change much of your analysis? For me, it really doesn't.
But I mean, take out Brissett and put Tua in really quickly, Chris, just so we can make sure. Is that you want to make sure that you have that swappable?
You can fit both.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we knew that we like. You want to if you do a lineup with Brissett or Tua in it, you need to know what you're, and they're only $400 different. So You can pivot.
It's like last week going into Sunday. We found out pretty late in the game that Tua was going to be active but not starting. He wasn't going to play. So, and you do have to have that ability to swap out really quickly.
Right. You just want to make sure that you can, if you have 150 lineups that you're playing, I mean, good for you for dropping, what is it? Like, I mean, $3,000 on a Thursday night showdown slate. I'm not quite there. If you're playing 150 lineups, you want to be able to quickly download, redo your optimization lineups, or just have a replace rule or whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
If you want to keep this strategy going, you can. That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah, basically they're easily replaceable. We just want to make sure that was the case. All right. Yeah, that lineup is stanky. What was our Costanza lineup for the Bears? I need to go back and look. It might have done okay because the Bears.
I was gonna say it might have been okay.
I had a lineup that was cooking with all Bears until the end.
I know we had Freiermuth. I don't know if we had Freiermuth in a captain spot, but we had him.
I took him out of like a bunch of lineups. That was the thing. He was so, and this will be like with Waddle and Gesicki, just with their prices in the flex spot, they're not going to be heavily owned because people will want to get Lamar, Andrews, and Hollywood, and then it's just tougher to get, like all the people will skip over that middle chunk, just like Freiermuth was not heavily owned because people are like, 7,000 for a tight end,
and I think Mooney, and this is who I brought up. I said Mooney was under him at like 6,800 or something like that. So it's like. You go to the number 2 Bears receiver, or do you go with the tight end for Pittsburgh? A lot of people would maybe lean with the savings and try to go with Mooney on a deep shot.
Well, and you got to get somebody in from the Bears, right? So if you're going steal, so for sure. Hold on, I don't want to close out this video before I plug in. So we're going Gesicki as captain, Waddle. We say the Bateman game, Brissett. Oh my God, this is repulsive. The good thing is nobody has to know that you did it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God. A 4-2 Dolphins with no Hollywood or Andrews. Unbelievable. And I guess you could actually, one more, just a thought here. Oh yeah. Check this out. So take out, this is real crazy. Take out Lamar and take out Bateman and put in Hollywood. And it leaves you, take out Tua and put in Brissett. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I just plugged this in. I know this works. So you got Brissett, and then that leaves you enough for Andrews. So in theory, you could, if you wanted, fading Lamar is really ballsy. We've seen it. We've seen him leave primetime games before. He ended up having a huge game against the Browns when he was in the poop game. Fading Lamar is extremely aggressive. But you are fading him with his top 2 pass catchers.
Right. You are exposed to him in some degree. You're just banking on not a huge rushing capability for him in this game.
Yeah. So, that's just a thought. Just a thought that's another that will be extremely unique.
That one in particular is like,
yeah, in particular, it's very, very, very unique. All right. That should cover us. I've got my this Miz lineup. I'm going to see. The problem is I won't have the stones to submit it if I don't do it like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I won't have the huevos to throw these.
When you sober up a little bit later, when you get into that kickoff, you're like,
wait, why would I do this? This is a terrible lineup. So I'm gonna put both of those bizarro lineups in there as well. And all right, they're submitted. Okay, that'll do it for the DFS portion of the program. Sully, I'm kind of excited for this Thursday night affair.
Let's do it.
Let's go cash some props. Let's stay hot. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Leave your best bets in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you, buddy.